Well, hello and welcome to Little State Big Voices with myself, Shahida, and my fabulous co-host, Tracy. And if you
Hey, y'all.
notice, I'm sorry, there's another person in the grid, and Tracy is going to give one of her fabulous introductions. Who is joining us today?
So the pressure is definitely on. I know you guys are already gagging because you see what I see, right? You're seeing what I'm seeing as well. But today we are joined by an award-winning, not just an actress, but an advocate, an author, a woman of color who stands on business, someone who has navigated the waters from child acting to post child acting life to the Hollywood scene. And now we are so pleased to welcome her as a New Englander into the fold because Karyn Parsons, our guest today, now lives in New England on the East Coast. So it goes without saying that this is an honor to have you here with us today. And we just want to enjoy this time talking to you about what you've been doing the last few years. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Karyn Parsons.
Thank you. What a nice intro. Thank you. That was great. I'm really happy to be here with you guys. And yes, I am living in Providence, Rhode Island these days.
Yes. So I heard you kind of spend time, you split some of your time in Massachusetts as well, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah. I spend time in Westport, Massachusetts, which is where I am right now because it's summer and it's gorgeous and amazing out here right now. But I keep going back and forth, just
Mhm.
for one reason or another, and it's not far. But we lived in New York for a long time. And when we were in New York, we would come to Westport. And then we did the lockdown in Westport. And because we're out kind of out in the sticks here. And we did the lockdown here. And whenever we needed a big city fix, we'd go to Providence.
The big city of Providence.
Our big city fix, we go have dinner or go walk around shops or something. And after the pandemic had calmed down a little bit, we started started thinking about what would it be like to live in Providence? I wonder what it would be like. And then my husband started doing those late night, like looking at places and doing these virtual tours and getting excited. And next thing you know, we were seeing a couple places. And anyway, it just went kind of fast. It went faster than expected. Because what happened also is after the pandemic, things got weird a lot of places in the country, but
Mm.
New York, things got really weird. And people got really strange. People got violent. People got kind of gross. And I think things are a little bit more back to where they were before now. But at first, I was like, "What's up with everybody?" People are acting really strange. So we made the move, and it's beautiful. It's nice.
Well, I was saying to her, Tracy, that we're all transplants
Yeah.
at this point, and that's a lot of what we do focus on. A lot of people who actually come from other states, to live here in Rhode Island. And I've been here 24 years.
Okay.
Tracy, I think the same amount of time as you. Tracy, how long again?
7 years.
7 years.
Yeah, of course, not knowing in 2019 what lay ahead, we purchased a home in Rhode Island just because real estate made more sense. Shahida and I are both from Boston. I was born in Roxbury. Shahida's from Mattapan. Yes. So
Mattapan and Roxbury. Okay.
right. So we're really from Boston. We're not those
Mhm.
people who say we're from Boston and are not really from Boston.
Like people from Westport would say, I'm from Boston.
Right. That part. Yeah, but long story short, 7 years. So I spent my lockdown here, and I agree with you. People got very strange, lots of places, but particularly in major cities. And so it was a blessing to spend the pandemic here. Actually, I'm grateful, and this is such a wonderful city. And I can understand how your husband got sucked in to the virtual tours of the homes and things like that because and just visiting Providence, it just has a different atmosphere to it. It's great for arts and culture. It's a very embracing city, I feel.
Yeah, it's really nice. People have been fantastic. Food's good. But definitely looking at those virtual tours and looking at what we had in New York, our little tiny
Right.
place,
The
it's
square footage.
a little different, New York to Providence. Right.
I'm
Quite.
glad you put us right. I mean, we are in between Boston and New York. but we offer the best of those worlds.
Yeah.
Not on the scale of New York, of course, but, like, for Boston, if you wanna go out and have a good time and not have so many people, Providence is definitely it,
Yeah.
and then the surrounding areas, and our beaches beat Massachusetts big time.
Yeah, 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 it's beautiful. I mean, the city, I'll have to say, in the city of Providence is it's so pretty. It's such a pretty city. We're
Mhm.
constantly, looking around and thinking, "Man, this would," I mean, our kids didn't go to college there. My son's not gonna go to college there, but we always like, "God, this would be a nice place for kids to go to college." It's, like, really made for that. So, it's just
Yeah.
inviting. The outdoors are very inviting.
For sure, for sure. And so one of the things that I think stood out to me, and first of all, I have to give a shout out to my friend Lisa Tudino, who is the one who said she read the article about you in the Boston Globe, and she goes, "Do you know Karyn Parsons is an author now?" I was like, "Say more." And so she sent me the article. I read everything, and she goes, you have to reach out and ask her to come on the podcast." And I was like, you know what, Lisa, that's a good idea. And so she's gonna be geeked right now. But I was so excited to learn how you pivoted into being an author, specifically, focusing on books that are inclusive and offer something for, families who are diverse, and children of color
Yeah.
in particular, and just learning a little bit more about your overall advocacy for people and children of color has been it's been really heartwarming for me. And then I also went down the rabbit hole of your mentorship. So tell us a little bit about becoming an author. Tell us about your new book, Blue Beach, and let the people know what you're doing and where to find this great literature.
Well, thank you for all of that. It's been a very exciting adventure, I have to say, to have had I've had such a great I've been very fortunate to I wanted to act since I was a little kid, and to have that actually happen in my life, and have relative success in it, have such a great experience in it, and now to have these kind of new horizons, it's really a blessing. I'm really blessed. I mean, I see what I have, and I see how fortunate I am. I've always loved storytelling. I love character. I love people. I like how different we are, but how much we're very much the same. And I think that that's one of the things that's always attracted me. It probably is what I loved the most about acting. I loved, characters. I loved going and people watching and taking notes about, people in cafes and what they were doing and how they behaved, and bringing it into my acting scenes that I was doing in class. And then when I started writing, I started doing the same thing. I started going and watching people and writing things down and pieces of conversation and behavior. And then I try to bring it into my writing, into my stories. And so it's the same kind of thing for me. It's kind of scratching that itch that acting did. And I love it. I had a friend really push me to take a writing course after The Fresh Prince ended, and which strangely enough, I got reacquainted with her recently, and I told her about everything, and she was like, "I don't remember that," which cracks me up because it's like my whole life changed. It's
The
just
best
like,
advice.
That's always the way. Like you
mhm,
say things to people and you forget that you said them and they're like, "Yes, I totally like changed the trajectory of my life based on this thing you said." And I learned to be more intentional. Sorry to interject there, but I think it's so important to that sometimes we have to be careful what we say.
right? Absolutely. So I took this advice, and it was good advice. She pushed me. She really pushed me to take this course with a particular instructor, and I fell in love with it. I just fell in love with everything. I loved the things he had us reading. I loved the challenge of the writing assignments. He'd give us an assignment to bring back, and I would come back with 5 of them. Because I was no
Mhm.
on the show and I didn't have a family yet. So all that energy and time, and we didn't have, the cell phone yet to take up all of my time. So I was constructive I was falling in love with it, and I was using my time for writing and exploring and learning. And I really loved it. I also had well, not then. Later, I went on to start a nonprofit organization called Sweet Blackberry, which I have now. And Sweet Blackberry's mission is to bring little known stories of Black achievement to children. And we do it through animated films, through books. And I visit schools across the country and talk to them about these people and these achievements. And so both things were kind of happening. I was writing all of the time. I was working on Sweet Blackberry. I was writing the stories for Sweet Blackberry's films, but I wasn't thinking of myself as a writer yet. I wasn't giving myself permission to be a writer. because I think I was really afraid that people wouldn't take me seriously as a writer because I had been an actor my whole life and I had played Hillary. So I didn't think people would, I thought everyone would be like, okay, stay in your lane. And the opposite was true when it came time. People that were in the kid lit world, because my writing, my books were geared toward young people, were so welcoming and have remained so, and offering advice and help. And so I was really fortunate to have all of that. But I loved when I was back writing in that with that instructor, that was all I was doing. I was really deep diving. And I know that my acting had a lot to do with how I entered writing. Like I said, I was coming into the way I came in with characters, the way I understood dialogue, the way I loved film and what you can show and not tell in behavior, in environment, all sorts of things. All of these things were really important to me and exciting to me in painting these pictures in storytelling. And so I just, jumped all the way in and I did it, like I said, with Sweet Blackberry. And then I bumped into a friend who knew me back when I was writing every day, all the time. And he had become a literary agent. He used to be a journalist. He became a literary agent and he encouraged me to write my first novel. He's like, "I think it's time you." He knew what I was doing with Sweet Blackberry,
Mhm.
which like I said, I wasn't even thinking was writing, that people were really paying much attention to that. And he said, "I think it's time you write a novel," which sounded insane because when I was writing all the time, I was writing short story fiction. I wasn't writing novels, and novels always seemed like, how do people do that? How do you keep track of that? And so I took him up on it. And, every few months he'd check on me. How's it going? How's the book going? And then finally I took it out of my hands and took it out to publishers. And we got in a bidding war, which was really
Nice.
cool. Yeah, that was a big surprise. I was like, what? 'Cause I was so scared to have it go out and people read it. Like, oh, God, here goes. Here goes. It's very vulnerable and embarrassing because it's like feeling, I'm not even feeling, I wasn't entering it being anonymous. I was entering it with people having knowledge of me from something else,
Mm.
which made it in some ways very, very, made me feel very vulnerable because I feel like, okay, now they can look and go, she tried to write, they could, that could be the response as opposed to just like, no, pass. There might be more attached to it that's more personal. So it was nice, obviously, when it received the reception that it did, but it is hard. That's still something that lives in me, and I think everybody has a little bit of that. And yeah, imposter syndrome or self doubt. Sometimes these things creep in and you just feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing, and then you get through and
And writing is so therapeutic, right? So Shahida and I, we are in a book club. So we have a love of books anyway. And shout out to Nubian Butterflies Book Club. But we also were in a writing prompt group together as well. So we've written together. And Shahida she's sitting on an unfinished novel. Don't let her fool
Novel
you.
is finished, but it's like what
Okay.
Karen says, it's the imposter syndrome, and then it's like sending your baby out for people to be like, "Oh, that's an ugly baby. That baby is not cute," and that's how it feels, and so I'm really pushing myself to do more, but I do wanna jump back real quick to the Sweet Blackberry
yeah,
because I was reading the mission and how you connected to wanting to do that after your daughter.
yeah,
And I feel like now we are in a situation in the United States where our stories are actually just being erased
mm,
from, history and and deemed not as important as Caucasian history
uh-huh,
or what we all consider American history.
right,
So I just like you to kind of like just go into a little like, what it means as a black mother to, say, look, this is my daughter doesn't have the same representation.
yeah,
And my daughter-in-law and I are doing what we can, and we've created a legacy lab that starts October 10th. And, it's creative. And our first session is called Passport to Africa. And we started it because of the climate of the country today. Also, we're all children of the 70s,
uh-huh.
me more so than Tracy, but we're
Shade 75, baby. I'm right there.
Hey, I think I was 10 years old in 75, but anyway. But children of the 70s where my mom and a couple of other women would every Saturday sit us down and we go to each other's houses and we learn Black history.
Oh,
And so
that's so
that's where
great.
right, is those women of the '70s were no joke.
No, they
And
weren't.
that's where we came up with the idea of doing this because it's almost like we should think of our history like we think of giving our children swimming lessons
Right.
or any type of extracurricular activity. It should be part of what we do. So as a Black mother, can you just kind of expand on that and why that particular nonprofit was just so important and what it means when you go into those schools and talk with these young children that don't often see themselves?
I think, yeah, you hit on so much of it. It's so the value, it just cannot be, you can't say enough about it. Because the children, they see themselves, they see what they're capable of. They see people who, with Sweet Blackberry, one of the things that we sometimes talk about is the Dolly experiment, the Dolly experiment from the
Yes.
1940s.
Yes.
Okay, so for people who don't know, if Black children are given two dolls, a black doll and a white doll, and they're asked which doll is the pretty doll, which doll is the ugly doll, which doll is the nice doll, which doll is the mean doll, and just this. I mean, there's the clip that I have one clip that's from Anderson Cooper doing it. So I don't know how many years ago it was, but it's just pretty modern, pretty recent. And the results are the same as they were back in the 40s
Mm.
and on, which is the black child points to the black doll and says it's the bad doll and it's the ugly doll, like down the line. And these are little kids. So we
Yeah.
know that the messages that they're getting from outside media, yes, but also just the world around them is that they are less than, and not as worthy, not as valuable. They're getting those messages so early. And so what it was really important. My mom told me the story of Henry Box Brown, the enslaved man who mailed himself to freedom in a box.
Mhm.
And she was a librarian and she had come across this story. And I was just so fascinated by the story. But then I was, I think, equally kind of amazed at the fact I'd never heard it. And none of my friends had heard it. And I'm like, how this man traveled the rest of his life telling the story. How come we don't all know this story? And not just because it was a Black man who did this, but because it teaches all of us as Americans and as people in the world what determination can do, what we are really capable of. And I wanted to bring that to children. I wanted his story up too, for sure. I wanted people to know about that. I didn't want that to get lost. But I thought it was really important for kids to understand that. And then I started uncovering more and more stories about real people that I hadn't heard about. I mean, mind you, I didn't grow up like you did with where you had people telling you these stories. My mother who grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, was shocked to find out I knew as little Black history as I did. But where I grew up in California, they weren't teaching us that. I did not know. I knew
Mm.
stories, we knew the Frederick Douglass and Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and, George Washington Carver. Like this is what we knew. And that
The model Blacks, and they've done great things like
Yeah.
these, but these are the ones they wanted us to aspire to,
yeah.
because and then they sanitize those stories on us
Well,
as well,
well,
because there's so much about Harriet that we weren't told. There's so much about MLK Jr. that we weren't told.
yeah,
And
there's a lot
so
of nuance that we don't know about that's really important.
we have to tell it. That's the bottom line, is even if America just completely obliterates Black history,
Yeah.
what's going on in the home, and in the community,
And that's
that's the
yeah, and
thing.
that's something that I do feel that I do feel like, you can't squash that. Like, the stories are out. We know this stuff, and so now they're trying to do what they're trying to do in this, and trying to pull back on Black history, but I don't I just feel like there are too many of us that, we want all children to know the truth of our history, of American
100%.
history. This is not just history for Black kids. This is
Exactly.
American history. These are real people that did amazing things in our country that should be celebrated and people should know about. And they should know about the struggles that they had to get where they got. Bessie Coleman is one of the stories that we tell at Sweet Blackberry. We have a book, we have a film of her. And I mean, Bessie Coleman was the first Black and Cherokee female aviator. And she got her pilot's license before Amelia Earhart got hers,
Hmm.
and no one in the United States would teach her how to fly. She had to go to France, and she couldn't fly there because planes, that was the whole thing, is that planes were new and they didn't have commercial flights. She had to take a boat, go to this strange land, had to learn the language and a little bit about the culture, go there for, as long as she was there. And she passed everything and came back a hero and had her pilot's license, which was no small thing whatsoever. It was huge. And I think that kind of the lesson of that, everything about that is so important for all children. I mean, it's important for Black and brown children to see somebody who looks like them and they're like, I recognize myself in greatness, that's important. But also I saw a little girl, little white girl in her aviator outfit on social media on something, and she went and it was I don't know if it was if it was a Halloween thing or just a school thing, and she was like, "I'm Bessie Coleman," she was
I know
just
I
that's
saw
right.
that. I
just as
saw that.
proud as can be,
Mhm.
and I saw little girls out with Shaka Khan too at a school thing. I don't know if you guys ever that was the cutest thing. She's like, "Hi, everybody, I'm Shaka Khan," and they all the
Okay.
little setups. There's this little white girl with her little curls, and she's like, it was so cute because nobody could tell her she wasn't Shaka Khan.
Listen, and we should aspire, right? And I actually saw that Bessie Coleman documentary that you were on the airplane
Oh, you did?
before I even got the call from Lisa. So it's like you've been orbiting in my head for a month now. Because I had a really long flight and I was like, oh God, I love a documentary on the plane. So and I watched that Bessie Coleman documentary. It was just so ironic and
Funny.
just great history because of course we know like those of us who know the name like Bessie Coleman, but do you really know her story? You
Yeah,
all taught me so much about her personality, what kind of person she was, because I think we have these caricatures of our heroes in our mind, right? We
mhm,
think of them as one way and as perfect as well. But we need to understand the humanity of these people to really understand what they did and how to really be grateful for what they've done for us because they could have taken so many different routes and
absolutely.
opted not to do things they could have done things the easy way. None of what these folks did was easy.
No.
None of what Bessie Coleman did was easy, but it was her passion.
Right, it was her passion, and she didn't set out to be a hero. That wasn't the mission. She wanted to
Hmm.
fly. These boys
Her
weren't led with
passion
war. She was
was
persistent. But I think
Yeah.
what you said is really important too, is about the humanity part. The more we can show their humanity and people and children can recognize themselves in these people, the more they go into the world going, "I could do that. That could be me." Not just like, "They're great." And that is one of the problems too, us only hearing about a few people in history as we start to the message that's also being taught to us when they do that is every now and then a special Black person comes along and does something. Barack
Yeah.
Obama, Oprah Winfrey, once in a while, a special, and that is a dangerous message because
it
that's
is.
Yes.
happening too when you're
Mhm.
only showing so many things and there are, a gazillion crazy accomplishments, items that we use every day in our home that we take for granted that we don't know that a Black person not only invented, went through the patent process, but had to struggle to get that because I
Mhm.
Absolutely.
people did things and weren't able to get to that point of getting credit for it, so I think it's so important for these stories to be brought to children and for all children, but to recognize and see what they are capable of, what I can do to value themselves, to value their neighbor. I think these stories plant seeds early for children, and and then they reap the rewards all through their lives. I think that changes the whole landscape of race and how they value themselves.
And I love everything that both you and Tracy said, because another thing that I have like noticed with our children in our community is being able to say, I'm an American
Yes.
and feel like you belong here.
Yes.
And when you don't have the history that backs
Hmm.
up your portion
Yes.
of
You're
America, you feel
absolutely
disconnected.
yes.
And I didn't know about the that you did a Bessie Coleman documentary, so I definitely wanna see it and hear about it, but I always love her story
Yeah.
because when Black children go to school and they hear about pilots or even if they're learning about World War II, 1 and 2, there are no Black people there.
Right.
And
Right.
then here's this a woman,
Yeah.
not just a Black person, but a Black woman who
Yeah.
chose to go out there and get her pilot's license. So you have more options than being a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Michael Jordan or whatever. Here's a pilot.
Exactly. And people have been contributing. You can see, oh, Black and brown people have been contributing all along. All along. It's like it's so
We were
great. Like,
brought here to contribute.
yeah, yeah.
Africans
Yeah.
were brought here to contribute to
Who
this
yeah,
country.
who did and that's the thing, another thing, I don't go get too sidetracked, but, I mean, and talk about building the country,
Yes.
literally, and I think and also what frustrates me is sometimes people, will do this, like, Black people don't take credit for everything when you tell them about inventions, but I think people need to think clearly, who was tasked with doing so much work? who had few resources and had to think outside the box, who
Mhm.
had to think outside the box all the time, right?
And
So
let the record show that they tried to enslave other types of people, but it wasn't working out for them. When they landed on Africa and they landed on African people, they what came from Africa was that knowledge that was already a foundation. It was knowledge, it was physical knowledge, it was emotional knowledge, it was all these different things. It was that's why we, unfortunately ended up being the chosen ones for
right,
the task of enslavement because we could handle it physically and mentally
right,
more than other races who died off when
right.
they tried to enslave them.
But
So,
also the trade and the skill that those Africans had. I
yeah,
mean,
that's what I
I've been
mean.
learning a lot since I said we're working on the passport to Africa. It's gonna be so creative. We're doing the little passports. They're
That's
going to all these little countries. But
I
anyway,
need to be I need to be in the
right?
room. I need to
You
help
do.
with
You should
this.
come. You should set up a volunteer through your win-win. That will help. But
Yes, I'll
one of
do
the things
that.
I have learned is like we don't hear about pre-colonial Africa
Mhm.
much,
That's true.
and about the contributions not to one country, but to the absolute whole world. And I want us as a community to start recognizing, yeah, we started early making these contributions and we have continued no matter where we landed, we have continued. But let's talk about Americans, America here. So that will end up being our main focus. But so I did want you to come back and bring that, and you definitely, were on the same page as that. I love those stories and I want to listen. What was the name of the documentary? The Bessie Coleman documentary.
Yeah, the Bessie Coleman documentary. I go
I gotta
I'm about to
Child, I watched it
I'm
2
about
weeks
to
ago
say
and don't
something.
remember.
2
It was
weeks
like the Bessie Coleman story
I
or something
know, it's
like
like
that.
Finding Bessie Coleman or something where I don't wanna
It was something like that. But while you're looking, I do want to add the common thread here is that the earlier we get to our kids, the better, right?
exactly. Yes.
Yes.
So that's
Agree.
that's the part because Shahida and I both went to predominantly white school systems pretty early in our educational career.
Uh-huh.
But the foundation that we had before, it was that toddler to pre-K to kindergarten
Yeah,
before we went to the predominantly white school system that laid a foundation for us to have a strong Black identity.
yeah,
And it was so powerful and
it
so
is so
important
important.
when we went there and helped us thrive.
Actually only went to a predominantly white school for 2 years, 1st and
Girl, that
2nd
was
grade.
2 years.
How
And
That was
old
that was
24 months.
the busing that no, I'm just saying that was the busing situation that
Yeah.
we've all seen on TV, the busing that, the white women trying to turn over buses and had a horrific experience. But being in the 1st and 2nd grade, I didn't know what racism was, but my mother did. So I would come home and tell her stories. My mom and got me into a Black parochial school that was supported by the archdiocese that was very pro-Black. And so I think that is a story in itself. And
you should write
Cheryl,
you should
it's
write this story.
because how do you go to a Catholic school in the Boston system when, it was just a struggle and a fight with racism and it was predominantly Black and Hispanic and it was based on the Nguzu Saba, the seven principles.
Mhm.
And we were taught by Black nuns, Black men. So I had like my first Black teacher in the 3rd grade that was a male and he taught us social science. So I'm reading the Boston Globe every day in the 3rd grade. So I had a completely different experience after the 2nd grade.
That's
But
amazing.
those first 2 years were horrible, but then after that, it was all Black
But
history.
you were born to Amina, honey, and
I
you
was
had
born
that
to
from
Amina.
birth up until now, up until this very moment. So that those are the foundations that I'm talking about. So having your child on your knee and maybe taking the tablet for a few minutes and opening a hard copy of a book. Or if you're gonna do, rely on a tablet, maybe do an audio book about some kind of Black history, about some kind of Black experience, because we have to be the gatekeepers of that
Yeah.
for our children.
Or
And I,
send
I
them to the Legacy Lab on Saturdays,
send them the legacy
starting
lab, but
October 10th.
I want to point out an incident that happened that people may not be aware of, and that happened to you, Karen, when you went to the Wheeler School here in Rhode Island. So, for those who don't know about it, there was some friction at the Wheeler School because Karen went to speak to students, and I'm using the broad brush of students because you went to talk to all the students, but you were focusing on the topic, and there was an invitation that went out welcoming all students, but it was really catering towards students of color. And you can correct me anywhere and
I'll
along this path if
right
I'm
now,
wrong.
I saw pre-K to 2nd grade first, then I saw 3rd to 5th grade, then I went to a 7th grade writing course, and then I went and visited the students of color.
Right.
I
So
literally saw
some
I saw the whole school.
But somehow, some of the
Yes.
parents felt that their children were not included.
Yes.
And so there was a racial
I
issue
know.
that came out of nowhere because you weren't there to be divisive, obviously. You were there to talk to all students, but somehow it became racial, and parents of non-BIPOC students, tried to rise up against you. I'm glad that that got squashed, and I'm glad that,
Crazy.
you overcame that, because that is so silly. And I'm sad that's how you were treated here in your newfound community.
What's funny about it? I'm glad you brought that up. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just
No, go ahead.
have to say, I think I know what happened is I had in the auditorium, I had seen the littles, then I saw like 3rd to 5th, and then I went into the special class that was just I think it was creative writing, I think class, spoke to them. And then I was being whisked away to go to the students of color, and a young girl was like, "Oh my gosh," a white girl was like, "Oh my gosh." And she was really excited to see me. But they were saying, "No, she has to go, she has to go, she has to go." Because we were trying in between classes to run across wherever campus to get to the other place.
Yeah.
And so I imagine that because what was written was that these girls went home crying because I wouldn't see them and I was only there to see the black kids. And it couldn't have been further from the truth. I had just seen everybody, and now I
Yeah.
was going to see the Black Student Union, of course. I went to go see the Black Student Union and talk to them, and then this message got around late. I remember when I first saw the stuff on Twitter, I was like, "What's going on? This is bizarre. What's happening? Why are people, like, bad-mouthing me?"
Yeah.
What's all this? And I'm like tracing it. And what the good news is a lot of people that chimed in were saying, this doesn't make sense to me. A lot of people were kind of confused by it. The school handled it beautifully. I
Nice.
made a statement about, and then some people came out and said they countered the article because it was a local Fox station, I think, that did it. And
Okay. That's
another
good.
somebody countered it, and then and people were saying there are photographs of Karen with all the kids and blah blah blah. So that quickly kind of fizzled out because there was nothing to substantiate it to back that. But I'll tell you what's interesting is we were just looking at Providence at that time, and we were looking at schools. Ironically, we ended up going to Wheeler.
Nice.
That ended up being the school my son went to and just graduated from this past.
Oh my goodness, that's so awesome. And
Great.
I'm glad it got resolved, because this is the type of thing that we need to overcome, right? We don't need that kind of thing where, we need to band together. We need to also get the truth. The truth needs to be
Yeah.
told, because
Well,
social media often is like a hotbed for, hot topics and headlines, but then you don't always get the full truth. So I'm glad that you were able to, to clarify that and say, hey, Wheeler ended up being the best school for my child after all of that because of their handling of the situation. So I'm glad that things all is well that ended well.
thank you. Yeah, they handled it really well. There was lots of communication, and they were very calm about it. And I mean, I think that's the thing. You nailed it when you said the social media thing. It's very divisive. The nature of it. It's like it's hot topics and hot takes, and people are like, grabbing on and going, this is my poll, and I'm standing by this one. I'm standing by this one, and people just get really. It's very divisive. The whole nature of what it does to people, and we're not talking enough. Like, let's talk. Let's have the truth out. That's part of this whole frustration that's going on with banned books in our country, banned books, and trying to change history. Because my thing is, don't you want your children, all children, to know everything? And
I don't think they do. I don't think a great big segment of people do not want your children to know anything.
right, and I think it's crazy, and I think people that hide behind, "We've had enough of affirmative action and DEI and all that." It's like, "Okay, that's fine. I'm just telling history stories. These are
Hmm.
about Americans in this country that I want your child to know about as well as this child to know about. I want everyone to know about it, and they all
Yeah.
are entitled to know the full truth of events that happen and people and their accomplishments. These are all good. Why do you not want your kids to know the truth? Tell
Right.
To
me.
know the full history.
Yeah.
It's fear.
It's
A lot of it is fear, because there's a fear that there'll be retaliation. And at the end of the day, that's not what
You
this is
haven't
about.
retaliated in hundreds of
Ever,
years.
really,
You've had
Our
many
focus needs to
opportunities.
Yeah, I think our focus a lot of our focus needs to be, number 1, we keep our eye on what's important and continue to teach and pass on stories and, and kids can make their see, critical thinking is what's really important here.
There
Hmm.
you go.
Critical
Mhm.
thinking. And then you can here, take a look at this text, take a look at this text. I want you to take a look at who wrote these texts. I want you to take a look at the context of them in the time they were in and to how they are relevant to today and let children understand the place that they live, the history that brought them to where we are today. If we teach them these vital skills like critical thinking, then they can make these decisions for themselves. They can understand.
Right. Draw your own conclusions and also be able to evaluate what's being shared.
Yeah.
It's not even to
And
say, okay,
research.
yeah,
That's a
and be
skill.
inspired.
Yes.
And be inspired at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So can you tell us a little bit about your mentoring with the Scholastic
Yeah.
Rising Voices? I mean, this is that she's out here doing everything.
I
I
love
love
it.
that as well.
That's been really exciting. I
Mhm.
was brought actually, I think, my television sister, Tatiana Ali, was first working with Scholastic Rising Voices as a mentor for their Girls in STEAM collection, and,
Mm.
Ooh.
uh, she told the director over there, Michael Hagan, about me and that I was an author, and so he started looking at my books, and he got very excited and reached out to me to come on as a mentor, and the collection that I helped curate is called Honoring the Richness of Black Stories, and it's a beautiful collection of books that are all authored and illustrated by people of color, all of them, as well as the protagonists, and so you've got all sorts of stories. Some of them are historical, some of them are just kids playing and discovering and inventing. And Tatiana's book actually her first book, I say that because we're pushing her to write a second one. It's such a great book called Ozzie and the Octopus, and it's in our collection, and as well as my book Saving the Day about Garrett Morgan, the inventor. But it's about her book Ozzie and the Octopus it's inspired by her son Ozzie and his love of octopuses, and it's a boy who has this adventure with an octopus, and it's such a beautiful book, breathtaking book, and it's just kids having fun. So we've got everything from kids and adventures like that, and then we have real stories like Garrett Morgan's stories, Saving the Day about the invention of the traffic signal. All of this collection covers all sorts of ground, and I'm really proud of the collection, being a part of it. We read so many books, hundreds of books, to come down to the books that we have in the collection, and we have teaching guides that go with them that are teaching cards that are incredibly impressive. I especially will say that having visited so many classrooms across the country. And this is what you're giving these books to the teachers, but you're also letting them really do these deep dives into the books and with the kids after, you don't just leave them with the book. They're able to take them through lessons and deeper comprehension. They're just brilliant. I think I love the cards. I get all excited about the cards. For Sweet Blackberry, I wish Sweet Blackberry had cards like those. But they're really the people behind Scholastic, and
Yeah.
I all the people behind it are all brilliant educators, and they're so passionate about kids. I will tell you that. That's exciting to know because we all know like the Scholastic book fairs and Scholastic book
Oh,
deal and all this stuff. I will. People that I work with at Rising Voices all so passionate about bringing quality books to kids. It's nice to see this up close. So many people and they really care and they know what they're doing. So I've been excited about going into different districts and letting them know about the collection and they're picking them up and bringing them into school libraries and yeah, it's just been great. It's been really great to be a part of.
that's so awesome. I love it.
You said something about book banning earlier.
Mhm.
Have you seen an issue with bringing these books into, like, schools, the books that you guys have curated into schools, and then maybe some pushback? Have you seen any of that?
Well, what we experienced when we were curating our collection, the new administration had come in and DEI was suddenly, a term that you couldn't use anymore. And the words that made up DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, were suddenly bad words. And so we had to be careful with how we named things. I think that there became there weren't any, I mean, we have the books that we have in the collections, but I think they're probably not at my level, but at some level, there probably is was some sensitivity to things that were put out. When I think of what the collection contains, I don't feel like we held back. And Michael Hagan he cares too much and he's really smart. So, we've got it. We've maintained a really, really good collection in spite of all of any of that kind of pushback.
Mhm.
We all felt it though in terms of buyers, people being able to buy the collections and stuff. There are people who have stated, like, I don't know if we can have that collection here, or they find out about a book from another collection that's a banned book
Mm.
that's now become a banned book, and they go, "Oh, you guys have a banned book in one of your collections. I'm not getting any of the collection." Like that kind of there are people who have had those responses, but we've had such an outpouring of excitement for the books in most in the markets that I've gone into and a lot that I've heard about. So I think I think a lot of people really care about the kids and they really want to get the important. You know what? I would say real quickly on that note, the day after the most recent presidential election, I thought I had the very next day, I had to go to the New Jersey Education Alliance conference, which is a huge conference with educators and cafeteria workers and everybody that works in the school go out to these conferences. They just really are there for anything that can help with the kids. And I thought these people are going to be, their faces are going to be hanging low. Because everyone knows this is a blow to education, right?
Mhm.
And to being able to be really honest and give the best to your kids. And so I thought, oh, this is going to be really hard to see all these teachers, educators this way. And it was the opposite. I got there and everyone was so bright and excited because they weren't going to be derailed. They were
Which is
like,
good.
for the kids, what new books are there? What new things are there? What new educational tools? They were just excited and bursting with energy. And it brought me up out of, I think a lot of us were having a hard time the next day. But
That Wednesday was rough.
whew, but these people these teachers, these librarians, these educators all just lifted me up because they were there for the right thing and nothing was going to change that. And that has
And
stuck
they're the
with
key. They
me.
spend the most time with our kids.
Exactly. And that really stuck with me. I thought, oh wait
And
a minute.
that's one of the things too that can't be stomped out is joy. They try so hard. I know that when I saw that one of the books, what was it? I Love My Hair.
Yeah.
That's on the banned list, and I look at groups like Moms of Liberty, and they're going to, all the school districts. It is the work that you're doing, it's the work that Tracy and I do that combats that. And as Black women and men, as parents, that's what
Mhm.
we have to really focus on a lot is like what our children are receiving from the outside. We need to give them that information because we have active groups like the Moms of Liberty that
Yeah.
are trying to take the joy out of learning
Yeah.
for our children.
Right.
So here, and I know a lot of great librarians, and they, I said librarians.
It's
I
okay.
know librarians.
We know some great
I know
Liberians too.
librarians
It is
too.
it is Providence.
But librarians who
Good.
are doing a fabulous job when you go into their library highlighting our books, not just Black History Month, but all year round, where
Yeah.
when you walk in, they're sitting, at the top where I Love My Hair, the color
Yes.
purple. And that's what we have to be grateful for, those people, those pockets of resistance, but with joy.
Yes. They're all
And
this, I have to say, because I see it all over the place. It's very exciting.
and now Blue Beach, right?
Uh,
Tell us about Blue
It's
Beach because
going to
now
be in
now
those
we're
guys'
evolving
books, but
into YA. We're evolving into YA and getting into that next phase of life with the preteens and the teens. So
yeah.
tell us about it.
Blue Beach. Blue Beach is a novel. It's a historical fiction novel. It takes place in 1929. Sorry about that. Ruby, stop it. Oh gosh. All right. Should I put my head? Will it make any difference? It won't make any difference.
no, don't worry about it.
It's all good.
Okay, maybe she'll
He's just
put that.
happy to talk about the book too. He just wanted
Right.
to let you know he was all with it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Or
Thank you.
she, or
So, Blue Beach takes place in 1929, and it takes place in an all-black beach in Southern California, in Santa Monica, California. It was inspired by Bruce's Beach. I don't know if you guys heard about Bruce's Beach.
Mhm.
It was a beach in Manhattan Beach, California, that in 1912, I think. It was a successfully run, successful, recreational area beach for Black patrons, and it was doing great. It was booming, and the city stepped in and said, "We need it. We need this. We need to make a park here." And so they gave them a fraction of the value of the property and then sat on it. Didn't do anything with it at all. They just took it because they just
Mhm.
Yeah, just to halt, us prospering,
Yeah, I mean, it was as simple as that, and when I heard about it, I just found it so painful. I thought, "What would it be like to have to?" Because I grew up on Santa Monica on the beach. I spent all my time I was a total beach kid. Actually found out when I was researching Blue Beach that the stretch of beach that I used to go to as a kid was a black beach until the 1960s, which
Wow.
we had no idea, but I found out it was Inkwell, like, East Coast Inkwell. It was also called the
Mhm.
Inkwell,
Oh,
but
wow, I didn't know
I
that.
just thought, what would it be like to have that kind of determination? Like, we're gonna do this. And we're getting a lot of grief from people in this neighborhood. And people are giving us a hard time, but we're gonna do this because it's important and what it would be like. So Blue Beach is the beach itself belongs to Blue. The title the protagonist is Blue Collins, and her parents own Blue Beach. And it's the only black beach in Southern California, and it's doing great, but there's a boy that she likes, and the 2 of them are at sunset walking together along the beach, kind of this little secret meeting. It's the day before summer, there's been a big parade signifying the beginning of summer, and they're walking down the beach, and they spot a body washed up on the shore, and it's a young white debutante who's beloved and also has a connection to the boy Ben, who she likes. They have a childhood connection as well, and they find her body washed up dead on the shore. And of course, they're devastated, but in their panic, because they know that a white body on this black beach means danger for them, they make the decision quickly to take the body back out into the ocean and swim it toward another beach with hopes it'll wash up on one of the white beach shores. And things don't go so smoothly. And that's
Wow.
the rest of the story. But I wanted to explore what it would be like to live in that time and in that kind of situation where you do have your own community and there's freedom in this very small pocket, but there's also tension all around it and struggle to keep this thing alive and to maintain it, even though the Santa Monica community may not be in favor of it. And then when something like this happens, when this murder happens, how does that affect the community? What happens with everyone there? And so I don't want to say any more about it, but that's a little bit about.
That sounds thrilling,
I need to
and
read
I
this.
love a thriller.
Yeah. And I cannot almost picture the movie in my head. The movie is like, coming or the series, whatever that would be. I'm like, I would watch that. I would totally watch that.
I
Please.
love that it is, based on, a historical time for young readers, especially young readers of color,
Yes.
to actually be able to engage in that. I mean, you don't see that often. For
Mhm.
us, most of the young adult fiction is more modern. I
Yeah,
haven't seen for us
right.
as Black people, I haven't seen that. So I do love that. They're getting a history lesson, a thriller, and a little
Yeah,
romance.
and a little romance.
Yeah.
It's true,
Kind of
man.
like black cake. That's what it kind of like.
Yes.
I'm already picturing the costumes and like in my head, I'm like, ooh, 1920s. What were the bathing suits like? What was what were the hairstyles like and things like that. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm definitely intrigued and I'm excited for that.
Sounds
And
really
actually,
good.
what we like to do is give a lucky winner a copy of that book. So we're gonna do some kind of giveaway with Black Beach, and someone's going to get a copy of it from one of our listeners somewhere in the US. So,
So it has already been released or
yes, it was released,
okay,
yeah, it was just released last month.
last month. Oh, okay. All right.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
yeah.
wonderful. It sounds
Well,
great.
you're in the right place for arts, culture, literature. Providence is that girl when it comes to bookstores. Like we still
Yeah,
have some really amazing bookstores. And, some of those proprietors, if you just say, hey, I don't see this book, will you order it? They'll order it. So
yeah,
the degrees of separation in Providence are so few that you can have those conversations And if you're not there already, you can get there.
Yeah.
And so, and Shahida and I are happy to make connections with
Right.
anyone, since we have a little, Shahida has decades here. I have, just about 7 years, but we're happy to help spread the word. And our listeners are going to be spreading the word. They're going to be buying copies of these books, and they're going to be educating the children in their lives with all this great information. Is there anything else you want to share with us? Is there
I
anything
wanna
else?
mention 2 things real quick before she
Yeah,
goes in that. Let's not forget Boston has 2 great Black bookstores, and I
that's
can't
true.
name them, but I will get them to
Oh,
you
please,
because we have 2
Bookish
great
is
ones.
one, just bookish.
Just
please.
Bookish, but
Eh,
the one down Dudley,
Frugal
Google
books.
Books, that's my
yeah,
spot, I love it. But go
great.
ahead.
Would love that. No, I was just gonna say I had a great, in Providence, Books on the Square is always taking care of me, and I had
Yes. Mhm.
um,
Symposium is really great.
great store. I haven't talked to them yet, but at Books on the Square, I have a relationship with them, and so I had another, book launch a few when I first moved to Providence there as well for my book Clouds Over California. But I had a great time. I also went to Plainfield to An Unlikely Story, Jeff Kinney's
Mm,
Yes.
store. That was really cool. That was really fun. But I actually this coming Saturday, the 25th, I believe is Saturday,
yes.
is
Mhm.
I'm going to have a book event for Blue Beach in Westport, Massachusetts, at
Nice.
Partners Bookstore on Main Road. So if anybody's at
Awesome.
the beach and you want to stop through on the way, I think it's at 11 o'clock or something like that at Partners in Westport, Massachusetts. That'll
Oh,
be
yeah,
fun.
you're
Very
definitely gonna
nice.
have to sign our
Seating.
copy that we give out.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely
That
I'll,
would
have
be
to
so
have a
fun.
signed copy.
I'll be there.
Yes, I love it. So, where can people find you? Where would you like to be found on social media, or just if people want to reach out about getting you to get books into their schools or into their programs, where can they reach you?
Well, I'm on most of the social media stuff. Not most. I think I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I'm not on Twitter anymore because it's too loud,
Mhm.
but there's a lot to look after. But I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook, and I think it's pretty easy to find me. I think it's like usually a book icon, like one of my books or something. And you can go to, I think it's Karyn_Parsons.com to see more of what I'm up to and doing. And sweetblackberry.org is, you can find us also on Facebook, Instagram, you can go to sweetblackberry.org and check out what the organization is doing and reach out to me and to us there. If you want us to come visit a school or if you're interested in volunteering, we are a nonprofit organization. So we rely on donations and any help you can bring our way, we welcome it. So, and you can, like I said, you can check out the things that we have there too, because we also have we have games for kids and things and book suggestions about real people in history doing great things that you don't hear about so much, not just our books, but others as well.
And that's Karen with a Y, y'all.
Karen with a
Make
Y.
Yes.
sure you put that Y in there and look for her blue official symbol too when you're reaching out on social media and things like that. But just, support, buy the books, watch the movies, definitely, get into the documentaries, and a lot of what you produce through your organization also has faces that we recognize. So in addition to like the Queen Latifahs and things like, there are some other well celebrated folks that we'll see in your productions as well. And thank you for sharing the information about Ozzy and the Octopus.
Oh yeah,
Now I want to read that book too. I
it's
I, I
nice.
don't mind reading kids books too. And there are some projects that I'm working on with my organization where people are going into pre-K classrooms and reading to children through Jumpstart. So
Oh,
I'm
that's great.
definitely going to make sure that these books make their way into the Jumpstart
Oh,
program
good.
too.
I love that.
And win-win. Yeah.
Thank you.
So it has been great, but before we do let you go, we do have to ask a couple of little minor questions.
Sure.
And we ask all guests these 3 questions.
Okay.
Well, I changed it up a little.
Okay, I got you. I
I
got you.
changed it up a
I'm gonna
little.
follow the leader. Go ahead.
I need to find what do you think your opinion of the new Fresh Prince?
The Bel Air.
Yes.
I mean, everybody always wants to ask me
I
that, and it's just apples and oranges. I mean,
It is because it's a whole
It's so
all the
dark.
characters are so different
it's
from the
inspired.
original,
It's
and
inspired by the original, but it is modern day. It is not a comedy, and
No.
it's different cast. I mean, so and writers. So it's so into it's just inspired by like, the first season there were a lot of little I mean throughout I guess there were a lot of little Easter eggs and things where you were like, "Oh, look at that's this," and I remember that from that show, there's a lot of that kind of fun, but I think once they got going, they kind of got their own thing happening,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it was just inspired by those characters.
I just love just the retelling of the story, just completely different. Like,
Yeah,
all the characters are like Aunt Viv. I love that woman.
yeah.
I loved her in the comedy, and I love the drama, and I was
Both and Viv.
it took me 2 seasons because I didn't wanna watch it, because I was just like, you can't do The Fresh Prince over. You just can't do it. And then someone said to me, "They're not trying to do it
They're
over,
not,
they're trying to
exactly.
do something different." And so I ended up,
But
No, they're
one common thread,
frustrated with that. Hmm?
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
Right?
Karen. One common thread is that Hillary is dressed down. Like you, there's and I love fashion. That's like, my thing. And I'm here for both Hillary's wardrobes. Yeah, I love and that's the thing. And you are
and
such
attitude,
a fashion icon. Yes.
and
Attitude
attitude.
and hats and Chanel dresses and just inspiring in those wardrobes. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it was pretty fun.
I feel like, there's something that we grew up on, you love, and again, like I said, I was so resistant to it, and to see my grandson who's, like, he started watching at 14,
Yeah,
but never really saw the Fresh Prince, but loves both of them.
right. They're different shows.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm, loves
Different
both of
shows.
them.
Yeah,
So
it's
the
okay to watch both. There are a lot of people that are always like, "I can't watch that show because," and I'm like, "They're different shows. It's okay."
I made myself, evolve and just try it, and then I was just like, "Oh my god, I love it." So, we always ask you, what are your 3 favorite things about Rhode Island?
I wish I knew more of Rhode Island. I've stuck so much to Providence, and I've been through
But I
Newport.
love that it's Providence. I mean, talk about Providence because, as a city, it always gets, a little bit of a
And we are here. That's
bad
the other thing.
turn.
Like there's at least three Black women in Providence now that you know
No,
about. So
it's, I like I said earlier, I think it's such a beautiful city. The rivers, I think,
mm,
just make me happy. Every time I'm along the rivers, I'm just like, "Oh, this is so beautiful." I love that.
Just water everywhere.
Yeah, and it's so pretty. It's pretty at night, it's pretty in the winter, it's pretty in the summer, the seasons when the leaves are changing or when the new blooms come out, we just walk around just kind of like, "Oh, look at that one. Oh, look at that one." We're just doing that constantly. I grew up in Southern California where it was like 72 degrees and sunny every single day.
one season.
So
One
I'm a real appreciator of seasons and change and and in Providence, I can see it. I can see it in front of me. I can see change. I can be reminded of the life cycle all the time. And I
Mm.
love that. I gotta give a shout out to Persimmon and Dolores, two restaurants that I love.
Oh, Dolores is good.
Dolores is great and Persimmon is consistently a great restaurant with good people. It's like a fine dining experience, but it's casual.
Mhm.
It's just and it's consistent. Every time we go, we're like, "Damn, this is good." And I'm satisfied. I ate food I wouldn't make at home, and I don't feel, like, uncomfortable when I leave. Like, every time we're like, "That was nice."
I'm taking notes on that.
And
Persimmon.
one
Tell
of
them I
the
said
things Tracy and I always say is, if you want good food, Providence is the place to be.
the truth.
Boston has great restaurants as well,
Yeah,
but it's just something about
It's the variety.
it's
It's
just so
yeah.
many to
It's really
choose.
good. And like I said, across the street is Dolores, and Dolores is the bomb. I love Dolores. Really good Mexican, like, just you gotta be careful, though, because, you can they
it-
try to slip you tequila and be like, "Hey, have some tea, have a shot, have a"
yeah.
like, staggering out there. But,
We'll
but I
meet you
love
there one day. We'll meet you there one day.
but those are great. The rivers are and the people have been fantastic, really warm. We've got a really warm greeting when we were there. There's so many things that I still have yet to discover. I know there's a place called Nicanese. Have you ever been there?
Yes.
Nicanese. We went to
Mhm.
Nicanese. We've gone to Nicanese quite a bit. Haven't been in a while, but just to go be and listen to live music in such a small
Small place, yeah.
place and really good artists come through. Like, and we were listening to some people and we're just like, "Oh my god, this guy's amazing," and I'm
Right.
right next to him. I found that to be really a treat. Like, coming from New York, you just don't get to be, like, right up on top of somebody in a little tiny venue like that. So I love that, and those are 3 things. I'm gonna say those 3. Those
Okay.
the rivers, those 2 restaurants, Nick and E's.
Then you have to check out our new stadium, the Centerville Stadium. It's for the Boston Legacy women's soccer team.
In
Has been
Pawtucket.
playing it now. It's in Pawtucket. And
Okay.
I just had the opportunity to go the last I saw Bill Burr there, and then I went to a soccer game because I just got into soccer because of FIFA.
I love it. I love what it's done to Americans. Americans are, like, embracing soccer finally.
Ready to fight over this Argentina thing, but I absolutely am obsessed now. I've been watching it on TV. I've gone to like two women's soccer games,
Wow.
and yeah, it has really taken over. I absolutely am shocked that I never paid any attention to it before.
Yeah.
I feel like Tracy, was it you I asked like where the term fancy footwork came from, and you said it was from boxing, and I said it had to be from soccer players.
Oh, she's hooked. She's hooked right now. I grew up the street from a soccer stadium, so I'm kind of like, you know what I mean? Well, in the summertime in Honduras, we could hear the fans cheering. So it's kind of like, it's soccer. I like it. You know what I mean? I love, but yeah, but this has been something new. But yeah,
Seeing it
thank
in the
you.
United States, it has been a fever, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that for all of us.
me too.
I was going to say thank you so much for joining us. This has been so great. I enjoyed just having this conversation with you and learning more about what you're doing. And again, we want to give you like a warmer welcome to to being a Providence resident. Hopefully you'll lean into that more, and you'll explore more and get to every day discover something. I still find new and surprising things that I
I
love
do
about
too.
the city. So I think that's the beauty of us here. But you guys know where to find us, right? We're on social media. We're on Instagram also. We are also on Facebook at Little State Big Voices. We can be watched on YouTube every week. We drop the episodes on a Monday. If we don't drop it on a Monday, we get told about it. So we definitely will be dropping this episode on Monday for you all. And, we are also wherever podcasts are heard. So iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, you name it. We're out here. And again, thank you, Karen, for joining us.
Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you. Have a good one, and
You too.
until next week, have a great week, everyone.